It's Friday. That means it's time for the Schuh Show. That's the Schuh, Rob Schuh. I'm Grant Cohn. Today we're going to be talking about Joe Montana. Thank you, Joe.
Joe Montana.
Joe Montana is phenomenal. You never know really whose side he's on. He's definitely on his own side, and he puts himself in the headlines at least once a year, and he does it in very interesting ways, often concerning the 49ers. The most recent example in the lead up to the Super Bowl, this media row, he was there, and someone asked him about Trey Lance, and he goes, "Oh no, I talked to some of the players, and he's not ready, and they should keep Jimmy Garoppolo, or find until they can actually get someone who can replace Jimmy. They should keep Jimmy." That's what he said, and he talked to some of the players. What do you think about what Joe Montana just did?
It's pretty crazy to me that Joe Montana sort of came out and said these things. It seems unnecessary. It seems to be something that the 49ers wish he wouldn't have done. I certainly wish that he wouldn't have done it as a fan of both the 49ers and Joe Montana. It's confusing to me. I don't understand his motivations for coming out and saying this. What does he have to gain from what amounts to belittling Lance at this point?
Well, I mean, I don't think he sees himself as a 49er for life. They traded him.
They
And I
did.
think he feels betrayed ultimately. They think he feels he should have been there forever, that Steve Young was never as good as him. And why should he say what they want him to say? Why should he help them all the time? Why should he not have his own opinion? He's Joe freaking Montana.
Right.
And I just want to point out that I had him on my channel last year around this time and interviewed him and asked him what he thought the Niners should do. And he said that they needed to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo, that the contract they gave him initially was overzealous. That was his word. And that he should go with a young guy. So I think he likes kind of shorting the 49ers, betting against them. And you know what? I do too. So I respect Joe. As one troll to another, I got to say, like, that's A+ troll work. I think he was trolling the 49ers. Like, because it just puts more pressure on Kyle. And not just Kyle, but Trey too. Like,
Yeah.
Joe Montana thinks you're doing the wrong thing. Go get him.
It's wild, and it's not the first time that he's done it with regard to Trey, right? He came out and he said after the draft, if I were the 49ers, I would have taken the kid from Alabama last year. Nothing against the guy that they took,
Right.
but a more pro-style offense, more used to being in tough situations. So even back then, I mean, it wasn't intended to be a direct shot at Lance, but it was a shot at Lance, and Joe was voicing his opinion. I had that same question in my mind as to, is this a carryover of post-traumatic stress disorder from Joe Montana because of the way in which his career ended with the San Francisco 49ers? I mean, I have this memory of the last-minute attempted save that Eddie DeBartolo tried right before Joe was traded to the Chiefs, where he sort of came out, and I may be romanticizing this in my own brain, but I remember as a teenager believing Eddie when he came out and said, Joe, if you want to stay, you can stay and you can be the starter. But it was too late at that point. They had already offended Montana, and Montana was convinced he needed to be out the door. I do think he took it personally. I absolutely believe that. And that would explain why he doesn't take the 49ers into account when making statements like this.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't see himself as like a 49ers cheerleader the way Steve Young is a lot of the time. Like, Steve Young loves the 49ers. I mean, he does a
Yes.
weekly show on KMBR. He's always kind of giving them advice from like a fatherly perspective, like wanting it to work out, because the Niners chose him over Joe Montana. The Niners never traded Steve Young. He retired with the organization, and I think he feels like he does owe them something that Joe Montana doesn't. And I really respect Joe, because that's how I feel. Like, I don't feel any. I used to feel an attachment to the 49ers when I was a kid, but now I'm like, nah. Now I work for me. That's how Joe feels.
Right.
And I get it, but I don't agree. I don't necessarily agree with him at all. Just want to put that out.
No, and I do wonder if he's bringing in some unconscious bias of his own in why he favors Mac Jones over Trey Lance, right? If you look at which one mirrors more closely his playing style, you could argue that potentially Mac Jones, although I do think that Joe was a more mobile quarterback than most would give him credit for, you could see him in his mind's eye, seeing Mac Jones as more of the prototype of who he was, and
Apparently he
therefore
does.
believing the Niners made a mistake, not going that direction.
Yeah, apparently he does look at it that way. I just want to come back like, okay, fine, whatever his bias is, where he's coming from. He goes to Super Bowl media week and sits down and says Trey isn't ready because he smoked a couple of players. Dude, that's weak. I
Very
love you,
weak.
Joe, but that's weak, man. You talked to a couple of players. First of all, who? Second of all, why are you sure they know what they're talking about? I mean, those guys are players. They're not personnel executives. I mean, a guy plays strong safety. He can evaluate quarterbacks, or I'm not saying strong safety, whatever position. I'm just saying, Joe, who'd you talk to? And don't you think you should probably go watch for yourself before you say stuff like that? I'm just saying. What do you think?
Wasn't that a violation of trust with whomever you spoke to? I could guarantee that when they were talking to Joe Cool, they weren't thinking to themselves, "Oh, this is going to get out to the media," right? You don't talk bad about the rookie quarterback that's about to take over the franchise. You say nothing but good things to the media, but Joe Montana isn't a member of the media. He's an alumni. But now it gets leaked. I don't think Joe's doing any favors to those players he did, quote unquote, talk to.
Yeah, I mean, now Trey Lance is like, man, I have teammates who are talking to Joe Montana and telling him I'm not ready. Kyle Shanahan's thinking I have players who are going behind my back to freaking Joe Montana. Again, it's like I keep trying to put it in Friday Night Lights. Have you watched that show, like high school Texas football? Imagine you're the coach of the team or the quarterback of some really prestigious high school in Texas, and the greatest player ever from that school, the quarterback who won multiple national championships, just happens to be in town and says they're doing it all wrong. Like, oh, thanks. Thanks, guy. Really appreciated that. That really helped our program. Thanks for making things easier on us. I mean, that's kind of what he did. They're doing it all wrong, by the way. No one asked me, but I just wanted to say that. Good luck.
Inspiring confidence, Joe.
Matthew Sanders says Grandpa Joe getting grumpy these days. Maybe his Skechers are too tight. In all seriousness, only hope Trey can put the blinders on and ignore this. I think it's one of the tough things about being a quarterback for the Niners from Jeff Garcia on, really from Steve Young on. Like, what are the expectations here? Right?
It's you're comparing yourself to past Hall of Famers, to the ghosts of Hall of Famers. And that's been the expectation here. It's been applied unfairly to many different quarterbacks. It's the unfortunate reality of the San Francisco 49ers. And at the same time, it's also a benefit because it drives this organization to pursue greatness with a fervor.
Is it really that hard to believe Montana is being legitimate? Lance has completed less than 51% of his passes in all stints, save versus Houston. So the other stint and plus the half yeah, I thought he looked good against Houston, though. I don't know. Is it really hard to believe Montana's being legitimate? Well, look, I guess we'll find out. But what I'm saying is, like, Montana doesn't know.
Right.
He doesn't know. He talked to a couple players or something.
He's being legitimate in that this is what he believes. Is he correct is the other question, and that's what we're dealing with.
Thoughts on Debo getting 0 votes for Offensive Player of the Year? I think it's ridiculous. I don't understand.
It's not surprising, but it's ridiculous.
But like, it's not a West Coast thing because everyone lauded Cooper Kupp this year. So what is it about Debo? Is it the fact that Middle America isn't ready for a football player named Debo? I don't understand. Like, what is the deal here? He's so clearly the best player in the league. It's obvious. He got no votes? How? Because his name is Debo? What if his name was Roger? Chad. Let's call him Chad so we can get some votes. Chad Samuel. He's I think that would help, man. It's messed up.
It might. It just might, Grant.
Man, I don't think they're ready for any of that. I am. I said he was the MVP this year. He got no votes. I agree with Joe. Jimmy won multiple Super Bowls with the Niners. Trey is not ready. Extend Jimmy. Jimmy won multiple Super Bowls. It's true. Thank you, Maruna.
Yeah.
Maruna lays it on thick with the sarcasm, and I like it. J-Rod5 says he just mad he's seeing the same thing happen that happened to him and Steve Young. Maybe. Or maybe he's right. I don't know. I mean, we'll find out. Daxton.
He set himself up for, either a quick turnaround and people will forget that he ever questioned the rookie, or hey, I told you, I was right. It's an easy win position he took.
Absolutely. You got to love that. I search for those. I build my brand off of those. Robert McQuarters says Daxton Hill slot corner replacement. Write it down. This looks like it's definitely R.W. McCorder's kid. Hey, shout out the McCorder's family. And if the McCorders say Daxton Hill is the one, that's probably the one. So write it down. Daxton Hill. Daxton Hill. The Jedi says Joe still got that Steve Young stench on him. Young loves the kid. That's all I need. What does Jeff Garcia want? Thoughts on Bosa getting hella snub for comeback player of the year? Not a single vote, man. LOL, I was amazed. Yeah, that is interesting. That was also surprising. Are the Niners like, it can't be the West Coast thing, can it?
No, it's not entirely that, but it is partially that.
I couldn't explain it. I mean, I don't think it's what he did in Wisconsin. I think the votes were in before he did what he did before he did what he did. Niner by nature 88 says, didn't Houston make Mac Jones and Herbert look bad? Wasn't they a top 10 defense at the end of the year? They torched them. Let the haters hate, Grant. Yeah, Houston actually beat Tennessee. And yeah, thank you, Niner by nature. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say to that. A Bullpup 33 says he didn't say he won't be good. He said he's not ready. He still needs work. Admit it and move on. Admit it and move on. I love that. Just can you call me bro too? Joe doesn't know. We don't know. I don't think anyone really knows. He was running scout team all year. He's not ready in the sense of being what? Too not enough. A little too what? I want to know.
It's fair to say nobody, save for the coaches in the building that have watched him practice all year, knows better than that, right? I mean, Joe certainly hasn't seen enough of the rookie to know better than Kyle Shanahan.
No, and the message we're getting from the Niners is pretty much they're gonna trade Jimmy. Like, that was the last ride. They appreciate everything he did, but they're not gonna make him do this again. I mean, that's pretty much been the message. There are a bunch of rumors regarding Tom Brady unretiring to trade for the Niners. Anything you've heard? No, I haven't heard anything on that, but I'll keep my ear to the grindstone or the streets and the blogs.
Do you see that as a legitimate possibility or like a 1 in 1,000 chance?
It's all about whether Tom Brady wakes up at one point in the next 6 months and says, I want to play football again for the 49ers. It's as simple as that. If he does that, it's over.
I agree, because I don't think Tampa Bay blocks anything. I think there was a gentleman's agreement between Brady and Tampa Bay when he came in that, like, I'm the GOAT. You don't mess with my legend. I'm going to come in. I'll give you some years of service. But then whatever I want to do, your hands off. Like, at that point, I don't think that you're going to see Tampa play hardball in the way that Green Bay did with Aaron Rodgers, if Tom Brady decides it's what he wants to do.
Yeah, I have no idea what he's thinking. He definitely was asked about his mindset, and he clearly didn't close the door. He's like, I don't know how I'm going to feel in 6 months. Good for him, man. Go back and play. I don't understand why he retired in the first place. Unless his wife said, I don't want you to play anymore, in which case make a grown-up decision and be there for your family. Otherwise, if she's all in for you to play, then, and you want to, come over to death row. Come to death row. I'm just saying, why not? So I think it's possible. It just depends on him waking up one day and just making the decision. And then it depends on the Niners not saying no again.
Right.
How do you say no a second time? I don't think you can. You already are pushing Jimmy out the door. You already sat Trey for 1 year. He's only 22. It wouldn't hurt sitting behind Tom Brady. I think you could gain a lot from sitting behind Tom Brady.
You would think.
I don't know how much you can gain from sitting behind Jimmy, but you can definitely gain something from sitting behind Tom Brady. I don't see how you could be against it. I don't see how you could be against it.
I'd take it just for the storylines, Grant. I mean, come on.
Yeah. I can't wait to see the legend return to the Niners and carry them to the Super Bowl. He mustard. I just hope he can. I hope he lasts more than 2 carries next season, whatever team he's on. What did Jimmy learn from Tom Brady? Doesn't Tampa need a quarterback? Thought they had Kyle Trash. What did he learn? What can Trey learn from Brady? Well, let me just say, to learn something from someone, you have to be somewhat smart. So I'm just saying, like, just putting someone around someone else, you don't just learn by osmosis. You have to actually, there has to be some brain act. I'm not saying Jimmy isn't smart, but I don't think every person would get the same experience from Brady. It depends on you.
Depends on how you approach the preparation. Steve Young touched on it in that Matt Mayoko interview around being maniacal with your preparation as if you are the starter and being aggressive in that. And Trey, to me, possesses those traits. Trey, to me, it's clear. I don't want to knock Jimmy. I'm not going to say he doesn't. I'm not going to say Kyle Trask doesn't. But Trey Lance does. He has those traits that you need to get better underneath the tutelage of someone like a Brady.
Also, how do you know that Kyle Trask isn't going to be the MVP of the NFL next year? How do you know?
Right?
I mean, everyone's real excited about Trey Lance, right? I'm just saying. Leo says everyone likes to talk. Leo says everyone likes to talk about hurting the rookie's confidence if he plays horribly early. But how is this supposed to make him feel? The Joe Montana thing? Hey, bud, you're not ready. I think Trey Lance is hey, thanks, Joe. I appreciate that. Thanks for having my back.
I hope Steve Young called him and was like, dude, just ignore Joe.
I
got your back. Just, you're good, buddy.
All right, let's talk about Trey Lance one more time. I think Trey Lance is ready. I respect Joe Montana. He played the position. He talked to some players, and he knows what he's talking about. But respectfully, I disagree. I don't know what ready means. I guess it's a tough argument to have because there's no actual definition of ready. But let's compare him to Jimmy Garoppolo. First of all, hold on. Who is more ready for this job than Trey Lance? To me, only one person in the world ready, and it's Jimmy, because Jimmy's been on this team in this offense since 2017. That's 5 years of experience. Kyle's big on that. You got to be in my offense for 2 years. Well, this will be Trey's second year in the offense. Can't say that about any other quarterback other than Nate Sudfeld. So in that sense, he is ready. He knows the system, unless he just didn't study anything. And they didn't say that. He knows the system. He's been here a year. He has a tremendous supporting cast that'll make life easier for him. He has a coach who's going to learn to make life easier for him the way he did for Jimmy, just in other ways. And even in his limited exposure, 2.5 games, 7 touchdowns, 2 picks. I mean, that's the 3.5 to 1 ratio. Like when Jimmy first came in the league, his first year, he won those games, but his ratio was like 7 to 5. So I think there's a lot pointing to Trey Lance being quote unquote ready, whatever that means.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at stepping in and replacing a quarterback who, if we're honest, as far as production goes, is not lighting the world on fire, right? It's not as if you're attempting to recreate a 4,200-yard passing season. You know, Trey Lance has the added advantage of throwing for fewer yards than Jimmy and still gaining the same number of yards from scrimmage because he is going to get some yards with his legs. It's inevitable, right? Even if you don't have designed runs, he is going to accrue 400 or 500 yards this coming season if he stays healthy through the entirety of it.
Well, the problem with Jimmy to me is that his TD to INT ratio is so consistently like below the league average, 2 to 1 or lower, that you can't justify throwing a lot with him. You can't. It's not big. It's not like big risk, big reward. Like with Brett Favre, you could let's throw 40 times. He'll throw 2 picks, but he'll throw 4 touchdown passes. It'll be cool. Jimmy's not like that. So it's all about throwing 25 times.
Yeah. And what I would say in having to replace those yards from Garoppolo, that even if there is that slight drop off from Lance, that the one thing to hang your hat on with Trey Lance in his limited snaps this year, but going back to his days at North Dakota State, is that turnover margin. He was marginally better, small sample size, marginally better than Aaron Rodgers this season as far as advanced metrics as it comes to attempts and turnovers to touchdown ratio. Like it was great. And yeah, small sample size, but go back to North Dakota State. I mean, he absolutely can be judicious with the ball. And if he limits those turnovers and produces fewer yards, that still sets the 49ers up for equal to or better than success in 2021 going forward into 2022.
And remember, they're not asking him to be Joe Montana. No. They're not asking him to be Steve Young or to replace someone like that, an MVP Hall of Fame caliber quarterback. They're asking him to be a game manager, manage the game, hand off, throw 25 times. And I think what kind of frustrated me and a lot of people about Jimmy is like, even in a role like that where they're like, dude, 25 passes, manage the game, he's still throwing interception. It's like, you don't understand your role here, man. Like it's not your role to go into Lambeau, roll out of the pocket, and attempt that throw 25 yards down the field. That's not throw the ball. You throw the ball away. Mahomes throws. Josh Allen, maybe Trey Lance, but not you. Really, Lance just has to come in and manage the game.
Yes,
hand off a lot, and he can help the running game by participating in it. That too.
Absolutely. And let's look at the trend that you uncovered with Jimmy Garoppolo and his inability to throw the ball away, or unwillingness to throw the ball away. Trey Lance, on the other hand, Fred Warner had to come to him in practice and say, Trey, we need you to take more of these shots. You're being too conservative. So his tendency is towards that conservative nature. And with the defense that we saw put on the field this year, if we're able to replicate that with DeMeco Ryans coming back, that sets up for a good situation in these close games for the 49ers to be contenders week in and week out.
And if his job starts out very humble, you're the game manager. Your job is to hand off and throw 18 to 25 times a game, take a couple of shots that are schemed up and will probably be wide open. But otherwise, your job is to not turn the ball over, be a game manager, and then build from there. I think he's capable of doing that. And also enhance the run game. This is a run game you think, man, the Niners had the best run game in the league last year. No, it ranked 16th in yards per carry. And that wasn't because of the offensive line or the running backs or the tight end or the fullback. It was because of, in my opinion, Jimmy. You have a quarterback who, first of all, not part of the run game, is 10 on 11, makes it tough. And then he's not challenging you down the field. So it's just a very compressed box. Trey Lance is going to just space everything out. If you overcommit to the run, he will take the shot. And 11 on 11 will produce a more efficient yards per carry, higher yards per carry than 10 on 11. That's just math.
And the Niners also seem to be, they had fewer long runs this season. Elijah Mitchell had some medium length runs, but he didn't always make that right cut in the second level to extend that play, to pick up those chunk yards. But you would think there will be some additional long runs this coming season as long as Trey Lance is a starter when the defense completely turns their back to the line of scrimmage. That will present options where Trey picks up 30, 40 yards on the defense because all the defenders are downfield and they're not crowding the box in the way that they would with Jimmy Garoppolo.
I keep going back, and we'll move on. I keep going back to the Raiders preseason game. And I know the Raiders weren't playing a lot of starters, but you could just see it was interesting. Kyle would bring in Jimmy for a play, then Trey for a play. And I'd never seen anything like it. It was fun. It was cool. It was preseason, but they were just handing off. And you could really see the difference, in my opinion, just in how much bigger the gains were when Trey was handing off compared to Jimmy, because Trey froze the whole defense. They're like, oh my God, is he going to have the ball? And right. No, it's Mostert, and he's gone. And it's 15 yards. So maybe that was 6 months ago. Maybe that's the way I remember it. But I really think just the presence of him on the field will have the Niners go from whatever they were, 16th in yards per carry, to probably 8th or better. And the big play element will come back. I think he's ready. Is he going to be a Pro Bowler next year? I don't know. But hold on. The coach has something he wants to add. Coming in, dropping twomps. Dub. What's up, coach? He's very generous. Ready only mattered when there was another option, i.e. Jimmy. There are examples of quarterbacks who started slow, were managed into finally taking over the reins. At pick 3, Trey at worst should be able to do the same as time. Yeah, man, just manage the game. Let Debo, let it be about everyone else the way Jimmy did, and then just make fewer mistakes and build from there. It's not asking a lot.
It's not, and you can't be afraid to find out whether you were wrong or right with that pick at number 3. It's time to put your money where your mouth is. You invested all this. Let's see.
And frankly, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Jimmy really is better than I think, but I think you can find a Jimmy-esque quarterback to back up Trey if Trey gets hurt. And you can go back to the same offense he ran with Jimmy and have similar results. I really feel that the big differences between Colt McCoy and Jimmy Garoppolo is one got drafted by the Patriots and one got drafted by the Browns. If Colt McCoy got handpicked by Bill Belichick and got to sit in meetings with Tom Brady, then everyone look at him differently. But no, He went to the Browns and started right away, and everyone that does that is screwed. So what would Jimmy look like if he was like, hey, 2014, you're the Browns starting quarterback. Go get him, buddy. He would have failed there, and he would be on his next. You know what I mean? It's just – so look, I think the Niners can definitely revert back to that style of play with someone better than Nick Mullins. They can get a actual starting quarterback who can do a lot of what Jimmy did and give Trey a chance. Give Trey a chance, as John Lennon might have said.
You would think that you could win 9 or 10 games with a Jacoby Brissett, a Teddy Bridgewater. With this team, the way in which it's constructed, I tend to agree. Replicating that double-digit win season shouldn't be impossible with one of the quote-unquote backup quarterback options that are out there right now.
Teddy Bridgewater is pretty perfect. pretty. I mean, in my opinion, there's nothing Jimmy can do that he can't do, and plus he can move a little bit better than Jimmy. They
Right.
both get hurt. Sean Shepard says, "You think that Mostert would be better on our team instead of with the Rams or Green Bay?" Trask has Mully's skill except no bounce pass. Surprised with Montana's take. Yeah, some guy thinks Carr is all pro. Let's go back to the beginning. Mostert. I love Mostert. I advocated the Niners to give him a big extension and raise, even though they already gave. And I feel like, you know what? As much as I like running backs, I'm never going to advocate the Niners to sign another one. I think it's a cruel world. It's a cold world.
Yep.
But Mostert proves two things. Good ones are easy to find. They're not durable. I mean, I'm sorry. So I love Mostert, but I think what you do is you just keep drafting or signing undrafted free agents, because every time the Niners do something else, it doesn't work. Yes, every time.
I would only bring back Mostert. I hate to say it because it sounds cruel and it's not intended that way, but as a business decision, the only way I'm bringing back Mostert if I'm the 49ers is if he doesn't get significant interest elsewhere, and you can do a 1-year prove-it deal for him, even though that doesn't feel right to do to Mostert.
All right, that's enough. That's enough quarterback stuff. Let's talk news. Wes Welker. Hold on, let me take that a little.
I mean, it's a true statement, though.
So Wes Welker's gone. I didn't expect this. He's with the Dolphins now. He's the Dolphins wide receiver coach. Took a lateral move, which to me says no state income tax in Miami. He probably got a little bit of a raise. He has a huge family. He has a ton of kids. Maybe they were over the South Bay. Nothing against the South Bay, but maybe they were over California in general. Maybe they were over the West Coast. So they get to go back to Miami where he played, and the Niners are now going to need a new wide receiver coach. What are your thoughts?
This one is interesting because it was a lateral move, and that means that it could have been blocked by Kyle Shanahan, right? Within the NFL, if someone's going to make
I think his contract was up. Usually with these position coaches, they give you a 2-year deal, and the real special ones get a 3-year deal. Russ Welker's he doesn't have to be doing this, right? It's Wes Welker. So I'm sure they gave him a 3-year deal. He's here for 3 years, and I'm guessing they're like, here's no raise, no promotion, but you can keep doing this in the most expensive part of the country. And I think they said he's going to have some game planning duties. I'm sure he might have got a little bit of maybe there's some upward mobility possible over there.
Right.
And it's, quality of living. So I think that's kind of what happened. I don't think the Niners care. That's my thing.
That was sort of my point of saying that it could have been blocked. But even if it wasn't, my thought is that this is the type of thing that happens in a backroom handshake agreement between Kyle Shanahan and Mike McDaniel that says, hey, here are the coaches that I'm okay with you taking with you to Miami.
Is this it's an expansion draft, right? Like you protect certain players, but the other ones you can. It's like, look, all right, you can't have Kosaric. You can't have Bobby Turner. Let's be honest. Let's be real here. But give you Welker. I'll give you Welker. I'll give you Welker and Embry. What do you say? Hey, that's pretty. I'll take it. Because last year with Saleh, it was Benton, the offensive line coach, and LaFleur, the pass game coordinator. Kyle left those two unprotected, and I think the Niners were just fine without them. I'm not sure how much they helped the Jets. So I'm just saying, if Kyle leaves one of his coaches unprotected already, I'm like,
yeah.
Like when you go to pick up a card and you're like, but your hand's still on. Like, no, I didn't want that one. I didn't want that one. No, you thought I wanted that one, but no. Maybe I think that's what McDaniel should have done. I'm just saying, Wes Welker, I never respected his work. I'm sorry. Debo's great. Why is Debo great? Because he has this crazy ability after the catch that's totally God-given and unteachable. I'd like him to drop less passes. Wes, where the hell are you on that one? I'd like him to run crisper routes and drop less passes. Wes. And then there was Ayuk, who apparently was doing something wrong the first half of the season. Where were you on that one, Wes? That's your guy, right? I'm just saying. So maybe a better wide receiver coach actually takes these guys to another level.
Yeah, I tend to agree that there are reasons to critique Wes Welker in areas where other receivers could have stepped up. And I will give him credit for Debo. I will give him credit in that my guess is, as someone who is so maniacal about his preparation as Debo seems to be, as someone who has that crazy mindset and drive to be the best, that he may have gleaned something from Wes Welker, who also had that type of a mindset when he was a player and may have pulled something there. So I'm willing to give the credit for Debo's development.
Let me stay with that because that's a great point.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you also argue that 3 years together, your main contribution is a mindset. Debo's got it. Like, can we bring in someone who can teach him the finer points now?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I think you're not
Yeah.
losing anything now because that has been absorbed by Debo Samuel.
But you're right. Let's not just write off the entire Wes Welker tenure. He was here 3 years. Didn't work out with Dante Pettis. Maybe no one could have salvaged that. He did some good things. I think we both agree that the Niners aren't crying over this.
No, plus Shanahan has that wide receiver experience, so he's just going to step in and fill that role himself.
Yeah, he can do it himself. So now the Niners have 3 vacancies on their coaching staff. No special teams, wide receiver, tight end. Be interesting to see. They got some hires to make. I wish I could give you some names.
I've not seen any real links to legitimate candidates other than the Seahawks assistant special teams coach. I've not had any viable leads.
How many years do you have to spend grinding as a quality control coach in your bedroom, wearing this jacket before you get some recognition? It's rough. It's rough, but it's okay. I'll keep doing what I just control what I can control.
Yeah.
I don't understand why the Niners didn't hire Bisaccia. Is that how you pronounce his name? He was with the Raiders, hell of a special teams coach. Now he goes to one of your, there's 4 good teams in the NFC. He went to one of them. And you had to beat them because of special teams this year. The only reason you beat Green Bay this year isn't that your special teams was great, because theirs was a freaking disaster, and now it probably won't be.
Dumpster fire.
Yeah. They had 10 people on the field for that final field goal. That's the best. That's how
I listened to LaFleur at the end of that one, and it was on radio, talk radio, AM radio. He just had no answer for how there were 10 people on the field. He was like, yeah.
Was he like, word?
That's unacceptable. That's on me.
Did he know?
He did. He had been told at the end. He was not aware when the snap was made, but he had been told prior to the press conference. So he wasn't caught off guard by the question, but you could tell he didn't want to blame it on his special teams coach. He did take it on himself, but it took a hard, that was unacceptable.
I just feel like I don't want to talk about the Packers. I'm sorry. I don't care. I don't even care. I don't care. But what a failure of the head coach. You have the best defense Aaron Rodgers has probably ever had, one of the best offenses he's ever had, and you can't even get to the NFC Championship game because you couldn't put together a special team. That's like Matt Nagy. Now, he didn't have Rodgers, he had Trubisky, but they had some really good defenses.
Amazing.
Some teams that went nowhere because of Cody Parkey. That's your fault, and you're going to get fired eventually.
Brutal.
But Rick Holt says, hard to imagine Trey is less ready than a guy who false starts on a 4th and 1 quarterback sneak in the playoff game on the line. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't even know what ready means. Jimmy makes a lot of mistakes. His TD-INT ratio isn't super special. Are we thinking Trey's going to be is going to have less than 20 touchdown passes this year? He's going to throw more than 13 picks. I mean, what is ready? I want to have an existential seminar on readiness at the quarterback position. I'm going to bring in the world's top minds. We're going to talk about it from a postmodern perspective.
That sounds deep. I mean, I don't even know if I want to be on that panel. I just want to watch. But I think the only way I'm buying the ready, and I don't think Joe is qualified, not that he's not qualified. He's a great quarterback, so he's qualified to speak on it. But I don't know that he is informed enough to be able to provide the insight we need to be accurate. The only thing I could think about readiness is if there is a throwing motion issue. And unless you're speaking with Trey, speaking with his coaches, speaking with Shanahan, people who watched him all season, I don't think you can definitively say that. I don't know that anyone else has come out with that information. So to me, it's just an opinion.
Yeah, and last year, he was preparing for the draft at this time. There was no vaccine at this time. The world was a very different place. Now he has a full off season to do all the mechanic work the Niners want him to do. He can go to the coach they want him to go to. He can work on the things they want him to work on. And then he can theoretically have OTAs, minicamp, training camp as the starter in an offense that's built around him. Not like, hey, go be the backup. This is Jimmy's team. No, none of that. And if he fails under those circumstances, then that's not good. But he's really going to be set up to be ready. They're going to prepare. Preparation is the word. They're going to prepare him. And if he's not ready after a full off season of preparation plus a year of redshirting last year, then we got a problem. But I don't think that's going to be a problem.
It's the 6 P's, Grant. Proper preparation prevents piss poor performance.
Oh, that's right. Hold on. Seahawks fired Solari? Wow. Wow. Think we should bring him back? Yeah. But I mean, they have an offensive line coach, but as long as we're bringing back former coaches from the Harbaugh era, we're going to talk about that next. Solari is a great offensive line coach. I really thought he was one of the better things that happened to Seattle because until he got here, their offensive line couldn't do anything well. And he actually turned them into a decent run blocking unit when they had, I mean, I'm just saying. So yeah, bring him back in as a consultant or something. He's going to get a job though. He's great.
I'm all for anything coming back from the Harbaugh era. Reunited, and it feels so good.
A bridge to the past is crazy. Now he's got to get Mariucci in here, and then it'll be complete. Wes Welker got a little bump in responsibility in Miami. Yeah, look for Leonard Hankerson to get a nod. Leonard Hankerson, that's right. He played under Kyle at Washington, great blocker. He's on the staff. I think he's quality control. Now, it's hard to say that he's the best quality control person on the staff because there's another one who does a great job, but Leonard Hankerson played in the league. That's good. And maybe him and his skill set being, I think he's 6'3", he'll have a little bit more to teach someone like Jawan Jennings, Brandon Ayuk, than Wes Welker, who has a very specific body type. And I think was, I just don't understand what he could really teach someone like. But anyway, yeah, good for Wes. Good for Wes.
Hankerson is the less cantankerous of the two quality control coaches, and that's why he gets the big promotion.
Boom! That's true. And he deserves it. Joe, I'm still hurt, Montana. Oh, what kind of hurt, though? People need to stop thinking we're getting Tom Brady. Why will Tom Brady come to us? We have a horrible O-line. He will get killed. Trey Lance all day. All day. I don't know. Good point. Maybe he really likes Daniel Brunskill. You don't know how he feels about Daniel Brunskill. Maybe Tom is a Mike McGlinchey truther. They exist. They're also big Mike McGlinchey fans.
Don't overlook childhood dreams. Like when you get to Brady's age, you start to think about bucket list items, like things that you always wanted to do in your life, pursuit of happiness, like greater meaning. And Brady grew up a Niners fan. You cannot take that away from his heart, and finishing his career in that storybook fashion, it could become something he wants to do. I'm not saying it's likely. I predicted on my show that it's a 1 in 100 chance, but still a chance.
Still a chance. A Niner by Nature 88 says, isn't Trey in LA with Jordan Palmer and Josh Allen? I don't know. I haven't heard that at all. Grant, let them know who JP is. Let me look at Trey Lance's Instagram real quick. I think that's how you track Gen Z kids. Instagram. Let's see. What are you doing? What's he done recently?
TikTok.
Yeah, I don't go on TikTok. That's too much.
I don't either.
Nah, he hasn't posted any workout things recently. I don't know. Tough to say. Too soon to call. I don't know. He's probably doing something like that. That'd be smart. Okay, let's move on. I don't know how legit this is. It comes from a source that I don't know if he's ever actually broken the story correctly, but he's like a Denver insider, and Fangio was the head coach there. So maybe dude knows. I'm not even gonna say dude's name because I don't like dude. It's personal between me and dude. All you gotta know is that dude said Vic Fangio was like meeting with the 49ers and discussing possibly coming back as a consultant. Interesting. I guess it's because they don't really have a position for him right now, but next year, D'Amico might not be here. So they could be lining up D'Amico's successor. We all know Vic Fangio is A+. Maybe not the greatest head coach, but one of the greatest defensive coordinators. If they could get Vic Fangio, I don't know if you remember, they tried to get him before getting Saleh and Fangio. They wouldn't. He was a DC at that time in Chicago. And Chicago was like, nope.
Locked it.
Nope. And if they could get him now, wow. What do you think?
I mean, what a perfect transition plan to replace D'Amico Ryans, who seems to be on a clear-cut path, a trajectory to being a head coach within the National Football League. I love D'Amico Ryans coming back and saying, I'm not done yet. I haven't finished what I want to do here, regardless of what went into his decision to do that, if he thought that he wasn't actually in consideration for the Minnesota job or not in withdrawing his name. I choose to look at it as he felt that his mission with this team wasn't accomplished yet, and he wanted to come back and finish it. But I do think it's fair to wonder if this is his last season before he does get the offer as a head coach. Fangio coming in absolutely sets the stage to go from phenomenal defensive coordinator in Robert Saleh to phenomenal rookie defensive coordinator in D'Amico Ryans to phenomenal veteran defensive coordinator in Vic Fangio. It's a perfect scenario for the 49ers in my book.
And also, there's something I like about it too. I guess I've always nitpicked Kyle. We have a lot in common. We went into the family business. We're sort of carrying on the family tradition. We're very faithful to the style that our father did. And you're
Yes.
kind of sort of trying to validate his legacy through yours. I mean, there's a lot of parallel. I love that about Kyle. So he gets the job and as a head coach in his late 30s and does really what maybe I would have done. Hire a bunch of your friends, everyone you know. And it's like, hey, yo, we got a team. We got a freaking team and it's great. And everyone loves each other. It's a great family and stuff. But now they've, blown some really great opportunities. And I don't know what the accountability is behind closed doors, but now you're bringing in guys that are older than you, who you don't know that well, who have their own perspective, and you want to be challenged by Anthony Lynn and Vic Fangio. Theoretically, they haven't gotten Fangio yet, but
Right.
that's good. To me, that's good because Bill Walsh, from what my dad said, was constantly looking to be challenged. He wanted the smartest people to tell him what he hadn't thought of, and if Kyle's not like that, he's screwed. If he is like that, he's going to be a champion. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's all about evolution. It's about seeking out additional information, additional inputs, additional trusted sources that can help a very intelligent individual like Kyle Shanahan grow, because you have to be challenged. You need to surround yourself by greatness if you are already at a substantial level in order to continue
Otherwise,
your
you'll
growth.
plateau. Otherwise, you'll plateau, right?
Yeah,
Chip Kelly,
absolutely.
he had some great idea one time, and then everyone figured it out, and you never had anything else.
And we know what plateauing looks like for Kyle Shanahan. It's struggling in these big game moments. It's failing to live up to your own production throughout the rest of the season at critical moments for the team. So you have to do something different. Otherwise, it's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Correct. And bringing in more young, inexperienced coaches is not necessarily going to help you here. I think this is one example. Game management under the highest pressure situations. You need experience. You need people who have been there. And Fangio's been there. He's been there on this team, in this organization. So, yeah, write whatever check. Jed, make whatever apology you need to make. Tell him you should have hired him instead of Jim Tom Sula, which you should have. Do whatever you got to do. Get him in the fold because he's a huge asset. Huge.
The question I have is would that signal a return to the 3-4 defense, which is what Fangio's been running consistently more frequently, or does Fangio go back and familiarize himself with running the 4-3 as he did earlier in his career?
I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think the way I remember him is it is a 3-4, but it's 4-3 principles in the sense that no one's two blocking, everyone's shooting gaps. It's just you got you guys standing up on the end instead of with their hand in the dirt. It looks a little different, but also, I mean, base defense is like 30% of what you do. Right. I don't think it would take him that long to make the transition. But really, no, he'd be fantastic. He'd be so good. He'd be so good.
I wonder if it would mean the most for our linebacking crew having him aboard, and whether that would incentivize the 49ers to try and extend and hold together the group of Fred Warner, Greenlaw, and Azeez. Because in my speculation for this offseason, I've targeted Greenlaw as one of those potential players that eventually the Niners trade for, a lower level draft pick, because you don't want to let his contract expire and get nothing for him. And he's probably not going to get, if Azeez continues his growth, probably not going to get significant snaps because the Niners don't play that base defense too terribly much. But with Fangio back, I feel like there's a bigger role and the linebackers could benefit from that.
Well, he's not back yet, but and if he were to come back this year, he wouldn't change anything. But if he were to become the DC, one thought, Nick Bosa standing up. That'd be kind of cool.
That would
Nick Bosa standing up, like Alden Smith did. It'd be kind of interesting. It'd be harder to chip him, easier to run those twists and stunts. Just saying, like that's one thing that D'Amico could learn from Fangio, because Fangio was the twist stunt master. And there was, chips wouldn't get in his way. So, yeah, we got to pay him, apologize, do what you got to do. Kent, says if being ready is just being as good as Jimmy GQ, then Trey was ready 2 years ago. Take the diapers off, play the kid already. Yeah, man, stop the pearl clutching. If you didn't think he was ready, if you were this nervous, you never should have drafted this guy. I mean, it was such a confident move going up to number 3. I mean, you basically were like, okay, we're setting these picks aside for Deshaun Watson. And then you're like, oh, Deshaun did what? Oh, okay, he's off the table. But we still have these picks. Why don't we trade them for someone who's never played in the NFL? But we know he's good. And now you're like, oh, we haven't seen him play before, and he hasn't played in 2 years. Like, yeah, what were you doing? I thought you were confident about this. We all thought you knew what you were doing. I still think you do. If Brady came to the Niners, I think they do. If Brady came to the Niners in 20 and everyone got injured as they did, and no Super Bowl wins outside of any, does this change his GOAT legacy without Bill? No, you understand that Brady would motivate people not to get hurt. That's what's different about him. He rallies people to get healthy quicker. People don't talk about that.
The TB12 treatment is magic.
It really is magic, and you can't quantify those things. Schuh may only be correct 20% of the time, but man, that dude is confident. Haha, JK, love the Schuh show.
I love the shot. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you always got to come with a jab at someone in here. Rob has not by far, but Rob has the best presentation. I mean, Rob has it all, and from everything, not just from the technology, but from the voice to the content to the beard. I mean, all of it it's just A+, really professional. When I think of the Schuh show, I think of an extremely professional show that I happen to participate in.
And when you do those things so well, you can be wrong a lot of the time and still come across as a talented individual.
I mean, his voice alone is like butter. It is so pleasing. I love it. It's terrific. It's phenomenal. Anyway, Evan says Tom is not going to the Niners because he can't wear number 12. He already called the Niners and said he wanted to play here. He'll work it out. TB12. You have to get a new number. Grant uncovered Jim's secret plan. Suck up our cap before he leaves so Brady comes here with no O-line and gets KO'd, ending his career. Ooh, wow. Sean's a fighter, though. He uses the fighting metaphor. I don't think that's what Jimmy wants to do. Probably, though, actually. Jimmy's diabolical. He has that smile because you would never suspect him, but behind that, you never know what's
evil genius.
Joey's in a 3-4 right now, all good over there. Yeah, you can handle it. You can handle it. Maybe they would even play Bosa inside like they did with Justin Smith. I don't know. It'd be interesting. All right. So the Niners theoretically are going to trade Jimmy. They probably have to wait for Russell Wilson to get moved or Aaron Rodgers. There's probably a couple dominoes that have to go first, but eventually they're going to trade him. And I think there's a way they can do it. I don't think any team's just going to look at him and be like, boom, first round pick. And if they are, great. But he was hurt 3 times this year. What is the big issue with Jimmy? Injuries. Yep. And there's a lot of debate on how good he is. Or, who cares about his stats if you win with him? Yada, yada, yada. There is no debate about his injuries. And so I think that is going to really hurt what the Niners can get. And so what the way they can circumvent this problem is to get a conditional pick. Say, we understand the reality of Jimmy Garoppolo. He was hurt to end the season. He just had surgery, most likely on his thumb. So how about this? If he goes to you and doesn't play or gets hurt and continues to be, a giant tease, then all right, we'll take a 4th. But if he's the Jimmy that everyone says he is, and he goes to you and he's healthy and he starts and he wins and he goes to the playoffs then we get a 2, or it escalates. It's a 3 if he plays 16 games. It's a 2 if he goes to the playoff. It's a 1 if he wins a Super Bowl, something like that. It'll be highly conditional. What do you think?
I think it depends on what the 49ers are attempting to do, their motivations in this trade, because it's my belief that one would be better optics for the organization. One would come across to the fan base as a win. If you get that, even if it doesn't come into fruition, if you get that conditional 1, you can lob that out there as like, maybe we got a 1 in return for Jimmy Garoppolo, and the optics to the fan base are great. If you're after true value as an organization, my argument would be that a second rounder this year would be far more valuable to the growth and trajectory of Trey Lance than a first rounder the following season. I would rather the 49ers get a draft pick in 2022 for Jimmy Garoppolo and begin forming that nucleus around Trey Lance? Because this is the critical time in his development as he comes in his first year.
It's a good point. You make a good point. I just don't think they're going to go that route. I think it's very important, as you point, the optics of it.
Right.
It's very important for the 49ers to not get less than a second round pick because that's what they traded for him. And to take less would sort of be admitting that you messed up the situation. You sold low. Also, I think it hasn't been reported, but I think they probably had an offer maybe from the Patriots 2 years ago after that Super Bowl for a first round pick that they probably said no to. And if that's the case, I don't know that it is, but I think it probably, I'm not saying New England, but I think they probably had a first round pick offer on the table. They also had Tom Brady saying, I want to play for you. And they said no to all of it. And I think if that's the case internally, they know it. It's hard. It's hard to then turn around 2 years later and take a fourth for him, right? It's really hard.
And you could see the team trading for Jimmy Garoppolo being incentivized to go with this type of a strategy because of what you mentioned. The primary knock against Jimmy Garoppolo is the inability to stay healthy. And therefore, if you can put in a conditional pick, that puts your franchise fan base at ease in that, okay, well, we're bringing in Jimmy. If he stays healthy the entire time, we know he's a winner when he does that. Then we're okay giving up that higher draft pick. But if he doesn't, it doesn't sting quite as much. It doesn't make us as a fan base and as an organization look foolish.
It's like, look, it could go down like this. Say the best they're offered this year is a late 3. They could do better. But maybe it breaks that way. And Pittsburgh gets Russell Wilson and they're out of it. And you're left with some team who's kind of interested, but not really. And they offer, we'll give you a late 3. And then I'm just like, how about instead of a late 3 this year, we take a late 3 next year that could raise with, certain benchmarks. I think that would probably be more. I think they prefer that. I don't know what word I was looking for. I think they would prefer that. They would like that better.
Yeah, that would be preferential for them.
Preferential. I love that.
And so I think the other thing to consider that's interesting, because you mentioned it, like it could be that Jimmy's the last domino, but just to play devil's advocate there, you could say that of the available quarterbacks, while Jimmy is clearly not the best and not in that group with the best, he might be the simplest. He might be the easiest one to get the deal done with. It's pretty complicated to get a franchise quarterback away from a team, right? They're going to play hardball. They have the leverage. They're going to want a windfall of picks. Jimmy's pretty clear cut. You could probably get it done for a second this year and be done with it, and then take yourself out of that carousel and not have to worry that you're the person standing when the music stops.
Right. Like say Pittsburgh wants Malik Willis in the draft and they're like, we don't need to trade multiple first round picks for Russell Wilson. We like Willis. So what we'll do is we'll spend 1 first round pick on Willis. If he drops to us, we'll trade something reasonable for Jimmy and he'll be our bridge. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Why overspend, spend all these picks just for the right to give Russell Wilson $40 million a year? Honestly, that's not that smart. You're not going to – Seahawks couldn't win that way. You're probably not going to win that way. Now, I don't know if you're going to win with the Jimmy thing, but I can see it. I see what you mean. So we'll see.
Yeah,
I want the trade tomorrow. I'm ready. I want something. Bored.
Yeah, me too. And I want to know how the future fan base reacts, because I have a buddy who's a diehard Steelers fan, and I've been talking to him about it because I've been picking Pittsburgh as the destination for Garoppolo since November-ish. And the response is as you would expect. So what do you think of getting Jimmy Garoppolo? Like just sort of undecided, like kind of cool, but also no.
Yeah, can you tell me what fan base is secretly or not so secretly crossing their fingers for Jimmy Garoppolo?
Is anyone pining for Jimmy?
Which one is it? Is it Pittsburgh? I don't think it's Pittsburgh. I mean, is it Cleveland? I don't think there's, and that's the problem with. That's why he's not. That's why he's a bridge, and that's why you're probably not going to get a first round pick for him because, man, I think fan base might revolt. What?
It'll be the type where the fan base is accepting of the move. Nobody's going to be thrilled. Nobody's going to be celebrating it. Some people will be poo-pooing it, but the majority will be like, okay, I get where you're going with this.
All right. Bryant Young got elected into the Hall of Fame Congratulations. He's extremely deserving. I think this is overdue. The way I remember it was in the late 90s Niners. I thought he was the best player on those teams. Steve was in his mid-30s, he was like 35 at the end. Jerry was getting a little bit older. I thought late 20s Bryant Young, before he broke his leg, was the best player on that team. And was, I mean, like he was like, I mean, he was the best player on that team. And as far as defensive tackles of that era, it was him, Warren Sapp, and Randall. John, I mean, he was as good as any of them. He was a better run defender than Warren Sapp, and he never got to play alongside, was it Simeon Rice? If you took Warren Sapp off that Bucks team and put Bryant Young on it, they might have been even better. So I'm glad, and as we see now, these Debo, Nick Bosa, no freaking recognition for no good reason. Maybe it is something to do with being on the Niners, but I'm glad Bryant Young made it in.
Me too. I was there for that Monday night game where he did break both those bones in his lower leg. I remember the air going out of Candlestick. Like again, your memory creates these pictures that you have. So who knows how accurate it is? But I remember that scene of players immediately on both sides of the ball when it's that type of an injury. Both sides are calling immediately for trainers to come out, and you get sort of this panic that sets through the stadium where everyone doesn't know what's going on. It felt very similar to the Trenton Cannon injury that happened this past year in Seattle, where even the Seahawks fans that were surrounding me in the stands were immediately concerned for the health of the human being on the field. And I just remember him fondly. I thought that Matt Barrows put together a phenomenal piece. He's one of my favorite writers that covers the 49ers, has been for a long time. But he talked about the history of Bryant Young and why he was deserving of this honor. And to me, it is long overdue. When you listen to players, I heard Michael Irvin on Matt Mayoko's podcast just this week, talking about Bryant Young and the possibility of him getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. And when a player of Michael Irvin's caliber is talking about him as if he was a monster on the field, wrecking games, when you hear that type of language used to describe the individual from someone who understands what it takes to be a Hall of Famer, to me, it was a well-deserved recognition.
Absolutely. Anything else we can say about Bryant Young? It was Ken Norton who hit him. Remember that?
It was. Yeah, it was his helmet came into contact with his shin, and of those two, the helmet is a little more rigid.
Gone for a while. He came back, and he was still great. Still great. He played with Patrick Willis for 1 year, I believe.
That could be the case, given when he retired. When he had 8 sacks when he was 32 in 2005. I mean, he was dominant for a long time. He came back after that injury was November 30th. He comes back, plays the entire season. That was in doubt, certainly, with the late injury, and has his second best season of his career with 11 sacks. He was the comeback player of the year, played 8 more years after that, was carried off the field in his last game for the 49ers where they upset the Bucks. I mean,
how many Niner players get carried off the field? Him, Jerry Rice, like how many?
Yeah, you are in elite company. I mean, it's crazy. Do you want to know a quick aside on him? A little known fact. I'm guessing, again, I got to give it to Matt Barrows for bringing this out, but I found it fascinating.
Matt. I love Matt.
He was the first wide back. His nickname coming out of Notre Dame was wide back because of his impressive physique. So Deebo Samuel is actually the second wide back that the 49ers have had.
Can I just say that the only reason people know I hate to toot my own horn, but I asked that question. Everyone says the wide back thing. I said, Deebo, if someone who didn't know you came up to you and asked you what position you played, what would he say? And he, without hesitation, said wide back. And that's what, I mean, I just want to say, I got that answer. I'm so proud of that. I'm so proud of that.
You should be. You absolutely should be. It's priceless.
Because a lot of times people ask athletes really technical questions that it's not their job to know. Why don't you ask something a little bit more personal? Like, what do you call yourself? How do you think of yourself? How do you identify? I like that. Anyway.
Get them to talk about things they're passionate about.
All right. Let's take some donations. Karan, you forgot the coffee mug game. Everyone. Oh, that's true. Your mug game is on point.
It's phenomenal.
It's on point. And actually, if you think about it, like a good talk show host has to have a coffee mug every time. Name me one good talk show host that didn't have a coffee mug. Oh, wait. Serious. I got to set my game up, man. See, the thing about Rob, he's already thought of that. The little details. Coffee mug. But if he panned out, I bet he had a full desk, kind of like the Daily Show. I'm trying to buy a house this year, and I want to set up like a full studio, make it like real great. And I want to hire a full time crew that like swoops in. Have the different. I'm gonna pay for it. I'm gonna do it. I don't care.
I will happily consult, Grant. I have definitely built out the studio here.
I'm going to be like Pat McAfee. I'm only going to wear tank tops. I'm never going to sit down. I'm going to have as much energy as possible all the time. It's going to work. So Trey got teammates, Jimmy Stans, ex-Niners players root against him. I like Lance odds to prove them all wrong. It's true, man. Like, can we think of it? It's great that everyone has Jimmy's back. It's about to be Trey's team. He's 22. He didn't ask for any of this. It's a little much. I think it's time for the whole organization, Niners Nation, which I'm not a part of, to probably embrace this kid. I mean, do you understand? He's basically Frodo, right? He's tasked with bringing the ring to the mountain. Everyone's like, he can't do it. He's not ready. Let's give it back to the guy who fumbled it twice at the mountain, made it and fumbled it twice. Let's give him a third chance because this dude just isn't ready. I feel kind of bad for him. It's rough.
Is Jimmy G like Gollum in that analogy, to where you're like, no, just give it back, give the ring back to Gollum. He wasn't great with it, but like he had it for a long time.
A third expedition to Mordor with Jimmy Garoppolo. We really got to do that again. He's going to get real close. He's going to get past the dragon. He's going to get up the hill. He's going to sprain his ankle on the way up the hill and be like, damn it. It hurts. It stings. Whew. Okay. All right, moving on. Tavarius Moore. Let's end on someone who really matters. Probably, maybe. Tavarius Moore. He went down with Jeff Wilson Jr. in the offseason, never came back. Now Jaquiski Tart, maybe not come back, maybe won't come back. And the option is Talanoa Hufanga, who looks kind of like more of a special teamer than a starting safety, and Tavarius Moore, who has started games at safety for the 49ers. What do you think it's like a fair expectation for Moore is this year?
I mean, I personally think it's a little bit too risky to slot him in as a starter. That seems to me as a value move that you attempt to get away with and hope that it doesn't bite you in the rear end, because he's coming off of an Achilles injury, right? And for every good Achilles injury story that you hear, most recently you would look at Cam Akers coming back from that injury. There are 2 or 3 Achilles injuries that don't heal properly. The person very clearly loses a step and isn't able to recover. To me, that would be fairly risky. My hope is that this is a fairly soft safety market with some reasonable choices out there. Marcus Williams, Jesse Bates, Tyrann Mathieu, Justin Reed, Jordan Whitehead, Quandre Diggs, and Jaquiski Tart. If there are 7 reasonably quality veteran free agents available in a historically soft safety market, you could see a scenario where the 49ers are able to get some value later on. You may enter free agency with Tavarius Moore penciled in, but I think the hope has got to be that you replace it with a veteran.
I think a lot of fans would hope the Niners would go from Tart to like an upgrade. Like they're going to move from Tart, who was a second-round pick, to someone really gifted, like Jabril Peppers, former first-round pick, or Justin Reed. He was a third-round pick, but he's a really good player. And I'm afraid the Niners going to be like, well, we have Hufanga and Moore. Like we're good. That's 2 between the 2 of them. We'll roll those 2 guys out, let them compete. Maybe bring in 1 more late-round pick. I mean, that's Moore's a third-round pick. I'm a little afraid that's how they're going to go, because they definitely like value shopping in the secondary.
Yes. And I would equate it to their strategy with Jason Verrett last year in a high risk, potentially high reward scenario, but underline the high risk portion of that you could walk in with Tavarius Moore and Hufanga penciled in as competing for that spot. But there is significant risk in taking that strategy. You are shorting the salary and saving some money, but there's a definite cost that comes with it, and it could be something that bites the 49ers in the rear.
The difference is Jason Verrett actually managed to have a Pro Bowl season before coming to the 49ers.
Yes.
So you could say, well, if he gets healthy, we have an idea of what he can do. I still don't know exactly what it is that Tavarius Moore does here. I think he was a project who needed development and playing time. Didn't get it. So
highly athletic.
I'm a little, and that's this thing. You're a DB, and you were in the NFL solely because of how athletic you were. It's not because you're a good tackler. It's not because you have good instincts. You are 6'3", and you ran a 4.3. End of story. You're a safety in the NFL, and now you tore your Achilles. So where you at? What's your 40 time? How valuable are you to the 49? Because if you have lost a little something in your athleticism, you may be worth nothing to this team.
Right.
Team.
If your core value was athleticism, we need to know what kind of athleticism you have right now.
I guess they'll find out. But I mean, everyone else came back this year, but him. I'm a little worried. I'm a little. My dad always makes fun of me when I do that. I'm from Oakland. I talk that way. I'm gonna go down. I always do that anyway. I'm a little worried that
it's a position
not for
of
the
concern.
Niners, but for the kid, the young man. It may not work out for him, but I think they'll give him a chance. They should probably hedge their bets there, though, and that's not. I'm not talking Talanoa. We talked about that. Trey has to be ready. It doesn't matter if he is. Oh no, he didn't. Trey has to be ready. It doesn't matter if he is. With no cap room and no draft capital, what are the other options? Yeah, I think that's what some people aren't quite getting, is that this is almost a financial move. I don't think the Niners can really go farther with Jimmy unless they extend his contract, which they're not going to do.
Seems highly unlikely. Because of the Bosa Debo factor. Yeah, anyway, that's the show. Thanks for watching, everyone. I really appreciate it. I had a great time. Make sure you subscribe to Rob's channel. If you don't already, there's a link in the description of this video. I will be on at 3 p.m. today with Jack Hammer on my channel. Get over there, subscribe to Rob Schuh, and tune in for the Jack Hammer program this afternoon, 3 p.m.
Wow. Is that what it's called?
No, it doesn't have an official. We were trying to work it in, and someone suggested it should be like a law firm of Hammer and Schuh, and we hit them so hard that we hit them so hard with the hammer that at the end they're left without even their shoes. Something like that. It was lengthy, but it was witty.
Yeah. My new show with Eric Crocker, I called it Crocker and Cohn, which to me sounds like a bourbon bar in San Francisco. It's, you know what I mean? Like a place where the cocktails are like $20. Bourbon and Branch. It's like, oh, that's expensive. I already know.
Yeah. It's a speakeasy where you have to know the secret knock to get in.
It's speakeasy, but it's like everything's $35. Yeah, it's great. Anyway, I went to a speakeasy real quick before I went to I don't know if I told anyone, but Nashville, they have speakeasies everywhere. And I didn't get COVID in Nashville, I'm pretty sure. You would go to this one Nashville. It was in East Nashville, across the thing, and the river. And they'd be like, all right, so we don't have a menu per se. Just give us a taste that you like.
A flavor profile?
Give a flavor profile. Give us a flavor profile. And then we'll go from there. That was fun. That was cool. I have to highly recommend. I forget what it was called, but it was a speakeasy in East Nashville. It was dope. And I think there's two of them, one there and one in New York.
You like that, where you have a very crafted experience, where you put your culinary or taste buds in the hands of the expert and allow them to do their thing. A curated experience, if you will.
And when they come through and you're like, oh, this is better than anything I could have even. Okay. All right. I trust you.
I would have never known to ask for this.
Anyway, I don't know how we got here. Speakeasies, they're fun. Bourbon Branch. What would it be? Hammer and Schuh. Crocker and Cohn. Yeah. That's how you know it's nice. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll be back at another time. Take care.